pass options, or RPOs, are brand new to Madden 20, and you guys are going to be the first ones to know how exactly to stop it. In this video, we're going to be going over all the different types of RPOs, the different types of alerts, the read, the peek, and we'll go over how to stop those really with just one play on defense. In general, I think there's 3 different ways to go about it. There is the first 2 ways, which are the easiest, which are pass commit or using man coverage. And then the third, which we'll get into last, is what I think the most sound approach, but it just requires a little bit more thinking. So we'll be going over how to set your front and your run fits in order to stop the RPO without giving into man coverage or pass commit. So the game really just came out, but I'm sure a lot of you have seen how good some of these RPOs can be, especially something like this one, 2x2 set. We're running a stretch with a backside bubble to the field, and we're just going against cover 2 here. You'll see in the slot defender right here, he will bite a little bit on the run and he'll leave a lot of room for the bubble here. The cloud flat will get blocked and you can get, 15 yards pretty easily. You also have these lookies, very similar thing. We're running a stretch to the boundary, and then we have the backslide slant here, especially against cover 3. You can have a lot of room. Maybe you can make the cornerback miss and even take that much further. The first and easiest approach that we can go about it is that if we don't really respect our opponent's run game too much, well, we can just simply pass commit. So this here, it's L1 on PS4 and then up on the right stick. And then if we try to run that same thing, the flat defender will be there to break up the play. Same thing with the bubble here. If I pass commit, you'll see that flat defender won't bite on the run and he'll be able to make a good play on that bubble route. So again, this is going to be an option for you if you have, stud defensive linemen that you can count on to run the block shed, or if you are, you don't respect your opponent's run game, or if you are really good at shooting gaps, right? My kind of prediction video on how to defend the RPO back before the game even came out was that, okay, well, let's run pass commit and let's take the run defense, solely on our shoulders, essentially by shooting gaps. And I showed you a really easy way of how we can shoot the gaps against inside zone. One thing I didn't take into account is that how many good run schemes there would be in this game, or sorry, run concepts. It's not just inside zone in this game. Outside zone's much better. Power is much better. Trap is much better. Even counter, I've seen, can be really, really effective. So you can still pass commit and try to shoot the gaps, but if your opponent is running all sorts of different run schemes or run concepts, those gaps are going to be in a different place every time, and it's going to be a lot harder on you. But again, if that's what you want to do, if you want to just say, okay, I'm going to take away the bubble, I'm going to take away that slant, and then see if you can beat me, sure, you can go that way. But eventually down the road, you won't be able to really keep up if, especially if you're coming up against in mud, somebody with a God Squad, really good offensive line, and that's pretty good on the sticks, it won't really be an option, especially kind of down in the red zone where you would expect the run. The red zone is actually something that could be really, really hot for the RPO, is that if you don't know what you're doing on defense, and if you're running pass commit, it's just going to be, an almost walk into the end zone, or if you just align like you normally would, just call your play, you can get smoked by that RPO. So easy way, just, we can run pass commit, but we may have troubles in the run game. The other alternative, like I was saying, is that we could just run man coverage, and this is, from what I see, pretty hot early on, even just 2-man under, or just cover 1 press. You don't have to pass commit, you can just run it as it is, and then whether you're running the slants or the bubbles or any other variations, those man defenders aren't going to bite, and it's going to be really, really hard to get anything going. But man coverage also has its downsides, right? I showed you in the very first video that I did on Madden 20 easy ways how we can use the outside release fade routes to beat those press corners and get free down the sideline. And then as I'm sure people are going to start to find more and more ways to exploit press coverage, especially once the wide receivers' ratings get better. It might be kind of hard to keep up, and especially, again, if you're playing somebody that has a really, really stacked squad on Ultimate Team, you can't really just run man coverage all game long. But, we'll still see how that plays out, but I'm predicting you won't really be able to sit in press man all game long. And then the other thing is that, man coverage, whether you're 2-man under or cover 1, isn't really the best run defense, especially, 2-man under, you got those 2 safeties that are just drifting deep. They're not involved in the primary run support. And even cover 1, you're losing that free safety way deep in the middle of the field. Not as good as something, say, cover 4 or something like that. So you're losing a little bit of run support, though not as much as, say, a pass commit zone. And then again, you don't really want to be stuck in man coverage all game long. Now, if you want to defend, say somebody is spamming this bubble or spamming the looky slant, and you just want to immediately stop it, well, this may be an option for you, either pass commit or man coverage. So those are the two easiest ones. It's really just as easy as calling man coverage or pressing pass commit. Again, L1 on PS4 and up on the right stick. That should get you golden for your easiest approaches. The other thing I want to mention is that you can run zone and you can just man up some of your defenders. Okay, so you can come out in cover 2 and you can man up your slot defender. You can even press them individually. You can even give them an outside shade if you're expecting that bubble. And then you can run your cover 2 and you can still be good against that bubble there. Similarly with cover 3, we can take that down safety there. We can man him up. Then we're kind of a little bit exposed in the flat, so you might need to change one of your linebackers to that flat, and then you're a little bit open in the middle here with cover 3, but that's an option as well. You know, and I could also show this with the lookie and the other approaches, but I think the bubble is just the easiest way of showing it about right away. For cover 4 quarters, you can kind of go about it in multiple ways. You can either man up the slot defender here, or you can man up the safety. Either way, you're going to be sound. You're going to be solid because this slot defender is essentially responsible for number 2 shallow and underneath. This guy's responsible for number 2 deep, so you can man up either one you want. Obviously, the slot defender is going to be a little bit quicker and a little bit of better position to do so. But if you do the safety here, it's kind of interesting because the read is that slot defender essentially. So your opponent might see that open up, but then your safety is there to replace and make the play. So if you watch the read defender here, he bites, I throw, but then the safety is there to kind of make a play. So you do have some kind of creativity and options there. So then you might ask, okay, well, how could I possibly defend the RPO without doing some of these adjustments, right? I don't want to run pass commit because I still want to be solid against the run. I don't want to run man coverage all the time, or maybe some people don't want it at all. Or, you know, I want to run my zone as it should be. Say I want my quarter flat to behave like a quarter flat. I don't want to take him out just because I'm dedicating him to man coverage. I think the best way to do that is with cover 4 quarters. I think the best way to do that in real life is with cover 4 quarters, and I think it works like that in the game as well. I'm going to show this out of a 4 down even front. Maybe I'll do a video down the line of how to do it out of odd front. I haven't looked into it too deeply. But essentially here, let me again, just for the sake of this, and again, this 2x2 double seems to be one of the best, especially with the backside stretch here. This is the power version. It's not as good. I might switch to the stretch. So why is that happening? Well, let's think about our run fits and let's think about how our front matches up against the blockers. So there's 6 blockers, the 5 offensive linemen and the tight end. And we have 2 wide defensive ends capping the left tackle and the tight end there. Then so that means we have 5 interior gaps, but we only have 4 interior run defenders. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 defenders to fill 5 gaps. So obviously we're at a mismatch here. So the 5th gap defender is actually this guy. He is your conflict defender in a 2x2 here. So he has to fill the B gap here and defend the bubble, which is impossible, right? So you can either, you know, pass commit everybody, including this guy, and he can defend the bubble, or you can leave it as is and he's going to try to, you know, contain on that B gap there. What you can do instead is, and this is auto-aligned defense. Okay, so this is an over front, and how Madden does it, it aligns it to the strength. In this case, the strength is the tight end. But what you can do is you can actually flip your defense, and I'm on the cornerback here, so he would normally flip as well. But once you flip, you just man align as well. So triangle and R1, and now you got essentially an underfront in a sense, depending on how you want to set the strength. And you still have your guy over here over the slot wide receiver. Now let's take a look at our fits. We have a gap. We have the end on the C gap here. We have 3 tech in the B gap. We have the Mike, who's also again in the A gap, and now you have a 1 technique and so on. So now this guy isn't committed. He doesn't have to go fill the B gap. He can just stay where he is. So let's take a look at how this play works out now. So you remember before he took steps, a few steps inwards before he realized there was a pass. So he took 2 or 3 or 4 steps. But now you look at it, he doesn't go anywhere. He kind of goes back a little bit, and he's still a little bit out of position, right? So then let's do a little bit better. So we're going to flip our defensive front, man align, and what I'll do is I'll manually press this cornerback here, or I'll put him kind of in an outside bracket here. I'll give him a little bit better leverage on the outside. So now, because of my front, because of the way I set my defensive front, he's not going to commit inside, but also because I moved him outside a little bit, he'll be in a little bit better position to defend that bubble. So I'll run it right now, and you'll see he'll be right there, and you'll still have the arm bar, but he's going to be there, make a tackle at the line of scrimmage. So now if we want to be a little bit more aggressive, again, we can just do the same thing, flip our front, man align, and we could even put this slot defender in a hard flat here. It doesn't really need to be in a quarter flat. And so if we want to be, make sure that he gets 0 yards or even the chance at a pick 6, we can run that hard flat, and you see how you can make a play on that ball. You'll see if I just run this stock, don't flip anything, don't put the defender in a better position, and if I do put him in a hard flat, it doesn't do nearly as good of a job as if we change the front. See there, we can go and we can get, 4 or 5 yards there. So then what I would suggest is that just keep your auto align, knowing that you'll likely need to flip it every time. So flip your front, man align, or if you want, because people, if they're running the bubble RPO, they're likely going to set it to the field, you can just set your strength to the field. So you can make it so this 3 technique aligns to the field every single time, and the 1 technique is over here, kind of closer to the sticks here, and you can man align from there if you want, or you can just flip it as you see. But with some of this hurry up, it might be kind of tough to do so. So that's something to keep in mind. The smokescreen RPOs, so pretty much like the bubble, except now your receiver is the number 1 and your blocker is the number 2. You don't even really need to do anything. In this case, you would see that, so you would expect the bubble and you would still do your same thing. But the smoke screen takes so long to get going after the catch that it's really not a threat anyway. So just like this, you can do that, and your defender's free to make a tackle for a loss. The RPO alert glance, where you have this slant and this bubble here, is really there to throw that slant. You wouldn't throw the bubble because you don't have the blockers there. But again, this one isn't really that great in my opinion because you are throwing through a little bit of traffic here. So even if I just run this as it is, you'll see that it's hard to get above that slot defender anyway. So you don't really need to do anything for this one, but if you're still making your adjustments, flipping your front, moving the slot defender here to an outside bracket, you are still going to be solid against this one. He's still going to be in a good position to make a play on that ball, as you see here. So the 1x3 bubbles are a little bit of a different story than the 2x2 ones. Okay, so if your trips formation like this one has a tight end attached to the offensive line, likely it's going to be the number 2 running the bubble, or if you have something like trips tight end, likely it's going to be the number 3 running the bubble. So in this case, number 2, things are a little bit differently here. So 1x3, we don't need to run an over front. We can leave it as is. It's default as an under front here. As you'll see here in the run fits, by the way, the run fits are still here. What you do on PS4, hold down LT, then RT, then your square or circle. As you'll see here in a cover 4, the slot defender is your force defender. So let me run this as is. He's going to come down force against the run, and then the bubble's going to be free over here. He still doesn't do a good job because Eddie Jackson's such a good athlete, but it's there. So 1x3 or trips is a different story than your normal doubles look. So if we run an under front or an over front, for cover 4, this slot defender is our force defender. And by the way, side note, to get your play art up, or sorry, your run fits up, the run fit art, you hold L2, then R2, then your square or circle to see what's going on there. Now, whether you're running an over front or an under front, he's going to be your force defender. So there's no point of us flipping things around. We can leave it as its default under front here. What you'll see is that he will come down on that run because he's going to be the force defender no matter what. There might be ways to take him out of that, but I'm not sure of that yet. He's going to come down, and then we can throw that bubble. And Eddie Jackson's still so fast and so good that he can still make a decent play on that ball. But if you want to do much, much better, for our 1x3 looks, it's going to be very, very similar to our doubles, except we don't need to flip the defensive front again. Again, all we're doing is taking our cover down defender and just moving him to an outside bracket here. Maybe move him down a bit if you want, and then he won't bite nearly as much, and you might have an opportunity here even for a pick 6. And by the way, if you're running cover 2, it doesn't really work out the same because this guy is no longer a flat defender, so he's just going to go back to his hook. So now you're going to get the block on the cloud flat, the hook's not going to be there to defend the bubble, and you can get a lot of yards against cover 2 this way. So be careful for that. I would really stick with cover 4 quarters if you can. So like I was saying, in a 1x3 look, if your number 3 is detached from the offensive line, likely he's not going to be a tight end. Likely it's going to be something that trips tight end. In this case, it's going to be the number 3 running the bubble rather than number 2. But it's going to be the exact same thing. Again, you're going to come out in quarters. It's 1x3. We don't need to flip the defensive run front. We can keep an under look. And we just move our cover down to an outside bracket. So because you're running cover 4 and because this safety is the primary run fit, it's going to cause that number 2 to target the safety, and your cover down can be free to make a play on the bubble, just like this. Easy, easy stuff. So that's it for the bubbles, I think. We'll go on to the other great one that I showed you, this backside slant, or the looky here. Just by alignment, this is a really, really great look. It doesn't even necessarily need to be an RPO. You can just run that slant right away, but for some reason, nobody ever does. So as you'll see here, if I just run cover 4 as is, you can throw that here, maybe make a man miss and go even further. Now, what's cool about running cover 4 quarters and why I chose to do all of this in cover 4 quarters is that it has the flexibility that cover 2 and cover 3 doesn't. You have this backside safety here in a 1x3 that really doesn't have much to do. You can just walk them down. You'll see a 1x3, you know, likely if they're running 1x3 and they're running the trips into the boundary, they're looking to get that backside slant because you don't really want to minimize the space for your trips. But, you know, that might not be a universal case, but it might be a tell to look for. So you can just walk this guy down here to where that looky might be. So that in itself, seeing that leverage and seeing the alignment there might deter them from running that. But if they do run that, they might throw it right into your safety there. So in that case, he didn't get the pick, but he was still able to knock the ball out of his hands. If you want to be really, really sound, you can run press coverage on the wide receiver over here, and you can man him up. If you know how quarters works, the trips check, quarters or palms, the solo side wide receiver over here is in man-to-man coverage here, and he plays it really, really poorly. So side note, if you want to play cover 4 better, just put him manually in man coverage, and then even if you want to press, you can do even much better there. Yeah, I know there is the outside releases that I was talking about, but it looks like if that outside release is coming from on the line of scrimmage, like the solo side wide receiver at trips is, he actually doesn't get around him. So you're actually solid there, assuming you don't have some slow bum at your cornerback spot. So you can do that to throw off the timing, and you can put your weak side safety here. So you have kind of a bracket on this, and then you have, you know, 3/2 or 4/3 over here. So you're solid against the stretch, and then you're solid against the looky here. There's just no way to get that through. Usually that's going to get picked if you run it like that. So the RPO reads can actually be really, really good here. Essentially what you're doing is you're reading the defensive end like you normally would, and then you have an option from there to throw that bubble if that pitch defender is coming, and you know you can make this guy miss, and you can take it off pretty easily. I think if your opponent doesn't know what they're doing, this could be a really, really good play. Luckily for us, or luckily for you, you've watched this video, and you're gonna know very easily how to set this up or how to defend this. A little note here is that I mentioned to you before that against 2x2 we would set our defensive front. We would set our 3 technique, this guy, to the bubble defender. Well, if there are 2x2 here and there's 2 slot defenders in this case, who's it gonna go to? Well, in shotgun it's very easy to know because it's gonna come to your backside receiver. So he's going to be coming on the side of the running back, very, very easy. So Aguilar right here. If it is pistol or single back, it becomes a little bit harder to read, but likely they're going to be setting it to the field to get more space. So in this case, it's very easy to tell, but in single back, I would say, okay, I'm just going to set my 3 technique to the field. So I'd flip my front, man align, have this guy out here, and have him right here. Now, the RPO read actually plays out a little bit differently than the standard bubble, so that cover down defender plays a little bit differently. Sometimes he might come down on the quarterback to be a pitch defender there, just because it's still, I think, legacy read option stuff working in there. But really the easiest way, and by the way, I don't know what that linebacker is doing where he's facing the 3 rec hook there. Anyway, really the easiest thing to do is just press L1, option quarterback. So now your defensive end right here is going to keep after quarterback. And then your cover down defender is going to cover onto the bubble. And they won't have any option other than, to either take the sack, throw the pick, or hand the ball off. And in this case, I think, you got the numbers over here with your quarters defense to play that inside zone. Because, if they're running this play, they don't want to hand the ball off. They want to have that big play potential like I showed you there. So again, I'm playing the quarterback here. So I run this, I don't really have anywhere to go. and you know, you've stuffed them for a loss. Long video, I know guys, we're almost there, only 2 more RPO concepts left, but I want to make sure you guys have all the tools to make sure that nobody's beating you with RPOs in this game. So this, the RPO peak I don't think is great. I think there's a lot of routes going through traffic. This slant is obviously going to go right through the user, you don't want that. And the backside, you know, the in route there isn't really the greatest anyway. Like you can almost just leave it as is. They could fit that in there. So yeah, I expect most people to shy away from this one just because there's a little bit too much risk involved. But you know, as a defense, we'd be expecting that bubble because we see this twin side to the field. So we do the same thing, set our 3 technique to that potential bubble side, put our cover down an outside bracket here. And then if they throw that, again, we're still gonna be sound against that and getting potentially a pick there. So last concept here, if you made it this far, congrats to you, you're gonna be an RPO defending aficionado. So the last one here is this kind of bubble pop thing. It's got a few things going for it. It's got the bubble to the right. We already know how to defend that one, right? I don't really need to explain that. We're just gonna be taking our cover down, moving him out here. That's out of the question, that's taken out. You still have this backside hitch, which can be good if you're playing off coverage here. You can just throw that and that can be easy 5 yards for your opponent. But we know we do have a tool against 3x1 with quarters where we can man up this guy because that's his assignment anyway. We can play press coverage and it's going to be much, much harder to throw that. And the last potential thing that you might have to worry about is this pop route from the tight end here, which really you'll user that. But if you're really aggressive as a user or somewhere else, and if you're running cover 2 or cover 3, you can potentially get over the linebacker's head with that. But even that is really, really difficult. But yeah, I don't really expect many people to be testing the user's area like that. So you're really going to be using that yourself. You know, if you're getting beat by that, then maybe, you know, you should brush up on your user skills. Against the bubble, we're good because we're just putting our cover down out here. Against the hitch, we're good because we're manning up our solo side cornerback there. And then we're solid against this, and we're solid against every single RPO in the game with just 1 defense and very, very minor adjustments. Plus, we have the options of man coverage and pass commit, and you are totally solid. You should never, ever allow yards against RPOs unless you're totally unsuspecting of it, in which case then it'll remind you, oh yeah, Deuce close the video, show me how to defend this, and I'm gonna use it. Okay, that's it for this one, guys. I know it was a long one. I really, really, really hope you guys appreciated the content. This is gonna be a really, really fun year. I think RPOs, you know, maybe I didn't touch on everything. Maybe some things will kind of come about as the meta evolves. Maybe something nice will be found. In which case I'll touch back on these concepts, of course, and we'll show you maybe, hopefully, how to defend it with the same thing that we're going on here, but maybe we'll change it up as we go forward. Okay, guys, please let me know if you have any questions. Let me know in the comments below or on Twitter. Other than that, we'll see you guys in the next one.